It is on Twitch, yeah.
Okay. Okay, welcome to the Foolish Tech Show. It's the Wednesday 2 p.m. edition. Here, got a smaller crew today. It's going to be Tank, Matthew, and myself. We're primarily here to answer questions about our software and services, so anything related to D7 or D Sport Suite or Crypto Prevent or any other software that we provide, I will be happy to assist you with that. And otherwise, we'll talk about random tech news. If you want to contribute to the conversation, go to foolishtechshow.com or foolishit.com/live, and you'll have links to both the video feeds on Twitch and YouTube. They play, so if you have some echo, it may be because one or more of them are playing simultaneously. So keep that in mind. You may want to open them in a separate window. And you can also join in the IRC chat. We encourage you to join in. There's always great discussions inside here, and certainly we'll be able to address any of your concerns if you participate in our chat. How's everything going today, Proctor and Tank, if you're around? I'm not actually sure if he's at his desk.
It's going well.
Been a busy day.
Excellent. Yes, it has been a busy day. I can double down on that response. I'm going to go ahead and jump into some news since Phoenix has been so pushy or so generous with all that is the word I want. Some of the stuff we've already covered. I'm going to skip the LinkedIn discussion. We did discuss it previously. Microsoft is scheduled to buy LinkedIn for a crazy amount of $26.2 billion. We'll see if that goes any better than their Nokia purchase. But I'd like to talk about it looks like over at webkit.org, Phoenix also points out that we'll get to some of the other links shortly. We'll get to those. But I wanted to post this one about Safari 10. It looks like it's going to disable plugins. I actually encourage plugins to be largely disabled in all browsers and solely rely upon HTML5 for content. Removing the browser plugins closes a very huge security hole in most browsers, and we would believe that you would be more secure and less vulnerable to things like the Angler exploit kit and those other alternative methods of gaining elevated privileges to execute malicious software or ransomware or anything else like that. So take that into consideration for your security needs, everyone. Phoenix points out that Microsoft released a ton of patches, which they're apt to do on Patch Tuesday, which was yesterday. Despite them not adhering to any particular schedule any longer and not having an official Patch Tuesday, it still would appear that Patch Tuesday is alive and well. Slow down there, Phoenix. I can barely keep up with the news articles. Apple announces encryption-focused new file system for macOS Sierra. Okay, that's another thing. Safari 10 is also going to be new with Sierra, and if they're doing an encrypted file system, that's an area where I think they were lacking a little bit in relation to the PC side. So that's good news. North Korean hackers steal thousands of military files from South Korea. That's another interesting one. Let's see.
Stole secrets.
Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to. Let's see. That's the North Korea hackers one. Wait a second. Did you you posted that link twice? You didn't post the link for the new file system, the macOS encrypted file system. Phoenix, if you could repost that link, that would be cool.
It's up in the IRC a little further back.
Raspberry Pi was purchased. I'm still not finding this link, but maybe I'm confusing these two links. There's two links, and one's North Korean hackers and one's Hack Pentagon. But I don't think the Hack Pentagon story is related to the macOS Sierra's encrypted connection. So I think there is still a discrepancy there. I'm not sure what you're referring to, Proctor. Apparently, Phoenix also points out that the U.S. is charging a Chinese ex-IBM employee with espionage. That's a big business, espionage. And yeah, I don't know if we actually mentioned this, but it had been talked about previously. Android ransomware targeting smart TVs, any basically device running Android, including probably, I'd bet, all our single board computers, the Raspberry Pis, and the other devices like that. Or wait, can Pi run Android? I'm not sure. Mine can. Oh wait, yes, the Odroid C2 can run Android just fine. But anyway, at any rate, be careful out there, and I'd take a look at that article if you happen to own a smart TV. Let's see. Why is there a Cat 5 coming off your toaster? I do not know. Is that a joke? Why is there a Cat 5 coming out of your toaster? Ian, toaster's malfunctioning. Oh, is that in one of the links? Did I not misreading something? Oh, the smart TV. Is that related to the smart TVs? Phoenix, I'm not ignoring your links. Let's see. I've got a couple more though myself. There's an interesting article if you're forced to sign a non-compete agreement. Let's see. These are just bills and they haven't passed, but that was kind of interesting because I've always been skeptical of non-compete agreements in certain ways. Oh, lots of activity in the chat. Could you try to keep up with it, Proctor? Or
trying.
Tank, or I don't know, anybody? Let's see. So, Russian-based Kaspersky Lab revealed that there's this forum operated by a Russian-speaking organization that allows hackers to pay for undetectable access to a wide range of government servers. Government servers in more than 170 countries. I'm not sure if this was related to the article that anybody else posted. He's QuickTime, yeah. That's the reason I believe why the toaster needs goes toast, or it's QuickTime. Didn't Apple stop developing for that? Oh no, wait, they're still doing that under Mac OS. Why won't my toaster upload my toast achievements to the cloud? You guys. Let's see. Trent Reznor believes that YouTube is built on the back of stolen content. I haven't read this article, so buyer beware. But I am a big fan of Nine Inch Nails, and I've been to some concerts, and I have a group of friends who follows them. So I thought in that aspect, just post some news. And apparently, more kids are getting their news from social media. Although I really thought this story was, I really thought it was already worse than that. But oh, that's not a good link, is it? Yeah, here's a BBC article. So there's that. Let's see what's going on in some more specific tech news. Oh yeah, not particularly tech, but Rhapsody. You know Rhapsody there, Matthew?
A little bit.
Yeah. What is it? Give me a brief rundown of what you think Rhapsody is.
Something music related, isn't it?
Yeah, music streaming service. So like whatever, Spotify or whatever. They offer pay options, just like Spotify and all that. But they've actually they believe it's good for them to rename themselves to Napster. Yeah. I don't know if I particularly agree with that. You might want to take a look at the article, but
I would think that there was enough bad press about Napster.
Yeah, I would too, but maybe
that it would deter someone from wanting to use that name. Plus, it really hasn't been in the news in a really long time, so it doesn't have as much clout as it used to, or much recognition. So I don't know why you'd want to switch to something that doesn't have recognition and has somewhat of a tarnished image.
Yeah, I question it too, and I question why them having been established for such a long period in advance of things like Spotify, how come Spotify is dominating the market, and how come they're having to do things like this to attempt to correct that situation. I don't know, really interesting. Here's a review of a Gigabyte 1080 video card. That is, one of the earlier ones that are not the Founders Editions. These should, depending, the manufacturer has the ability to undercut the Founders Edition price, which is about $100 above what they have to start at, and they also have the ability to raise it a certain level above the minimum as well. These cards should generally be more affordable though than the Founders Edition. And while the Founders Edition have exacting standards, I think from these larger vendors, I don't foresee there being difficulty with the quality of their products. It's been a while since I've purchased a video card where I really saw there was a lacking in quality. And I've done the route, I've done XFX, and I've done HIS, and I've done all of those. But because of the good competition, they seem to have kind of evened down. Of course, we all have our favorites, but I think it's good. Let's see. Anybody? Tank, you heard any good stories today? Didn't you share something with me this morning?
Did you talk about the link about non-compete agreements? That's kind of something that affects the tech industry a lot.
I talked about it. Yeah, I actually did.
You were zooming by so fast.
I did, but if you wanted to repost that link, if you got it, it is a big issue, and what's going to happen to compensate for this? I'll talk a little bit more about it. It's looking like they're going to guarantee some bills are being passed to hopefully guarantee a salary to prevent this. Apparently, it's affecting.
There are different laws about it in different states. Like California has already made non-compete agreements totally unenforceable, but Massachusetts has not, and that's where EMC is headquartered. But they're
they're merging with
Dell.
Yeah, and so they're probably going to have to issue a lot more of these, and so their workforce. Currently, right now, it's what, like 30 or something % of them are fall into that category of having a non-compete that they have to abide by, and then that's going to increase dramatically in the coming year once they merge.
Yeah, well, they're expected to have a lot of layoffs related to the merger. I'm assuming this is in Massachusetts, but state lawmakers are considering limiting the non-compete agreements to 1 year and banning them from low-wage workers.
Oh, that'll be good. Banning them from low-wage workers.
And for people terminated without cause.
Very good. Okay. Well, I like those reasonable protections, but I would.
Yeah. Well, and one to go further. Lawmakers are also trying to get a provision in there so that the employer would have to pay at least 50% of the former employee's salary for the duration period of the non-compete agreement.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Well, this is in Massachusetts.
Well, it depends on where you live, and apparently the laws are state level relating to this. So I would just urge, if you are required to sign one of these, that you look up the relevant laws in your areas. So there's a couple of stuff going on in the chat. Quark pointed out, and thank you so much, Quark, for remembering that I love the science articles. He tells me they've detected gravitational waves again, and this would be yet another confirmation of previous detection results. They were pretty confident in that they would be able to do this at this point in time once they upgraded the equipment and their detectors. That's oftentimes how this types of things in science work. They do an experiment to attempt to detect something, and it doesn't work, and they don't just give up and say it's gone. But at that point, they analyze and they try to build a new experiment that gets more accurate results. Learning from from where they may have made mistakes in the previous implementation. And as they improve these things, as has been done over recent years, they're able to reliably and unambiguously detect these types of things. Now, it still requires tremendous amounts of sensitivity, and I'm not saying it's something that's easy, but it's good to solidify our theories and constantly refine them. And I think we're getting closer and closer to a grand unified theory that combines the discrepancies we've known between classical Newtonian physics and quantum mechanics and special relativity. So once we unify all of those things and get them to all agree with each other, I think we'll be in the golden age of scientific understanding, or maybe the next golden age. I don't know. There's probably been a ton of those. The interesting thing about black holes is that all of the physics that works around them would work the same around them if they were two-dimensional objects. So the very idea that they're a hole and the very idea that they're three-dimensional at all, I mean, from our perspective, they would, at any angle, they would sort of probably, look, well, I mean, it would look different from different angles, but it's described mathematically as a two-dimensional object, and there may be no other side of it. In fact, this would also solve a whole bunch of problems, because considering there was the way that they understood with black holes, they thought it would, you can't get out. But if everything truly remained on the surface of a black hole, the idea was that it would be falling in and it takes forever to cross over the event horizon and all this other stuff. But if it were truly on the surface, it might not be it might not be the loss of information that has been plaguing the study of these things. There's only a few things you can use to describe a black hole. Its angular momentum, its spin, its mass, and various other things. But just because it has mass doesn't give you any information about the structure of anything that fell into it, and that information like that just can't be completely lost. I mean, it can be almost impossible to reconstruct, but it shouldn't be completely lost, and the traditional explanation would imply that it is completely lost. Anyway, I want to get the answers to all those questions. I want to get those things to resolve, and I think these are things that are a step in that direction. So thank you so much, Cork, for that link. And we may have posted something about that last week, but I'm happy to talk about it again. Yes, the new end of summer build, I believe that the new Windows 10 build that's coming up in the near future. Yeah, it does refine the start menu further. So I'm not clear what the specific changes are, but I guess eventually we'll have the Windows 7 start menu back in place again. No, I jest, but it's kind of crazy that they seem to have spent more time on the start menu than on any other fundamental, technology in it. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Hopefully they have two different groups working on it at the same time. Something that would probably interest Brantley is launching programs on virtual desktops in Windows 10. The VDesk link that Phoenix post. Thank you for that. And yeah, Quark, some people do believe we actually are all living in a simulation. I don't quite buy into that. I don't truly believe that there's enough evidence to suggest that. Although these things about the 2D black holes and stuff like that do indicate that they're, the third dimension may be more of something that is there sort of. It's how we interpret it, and it's not really based in the raw data that's out there. That's debatable. I don't know, but I need to get back to reading the science and the evidence. It's very hard to have these conversations without backing them up. And some of the articles that gloss over them and don't go into the details, though, you should probably avoid, because they make these brash statements about, oh, it's conclusive, it's a holographic world, there's nothing, and in reality, the answers are never nearly that clear and black and white. It's a lot more gray. All right, approved file sharing service hacked. What a big surprise. I'm not... And, oh, thanks for the vaping, Eric, link. Why e-cigarettes explode and how you can vape safely. E-cigarettes explode for the same reasons battery explodes, I think. I'm not looking into this article just yet, so I apologize if that's not their analysis of it. But, general protection of batteries and battery awareness and battery safety, I think in this age of the devices we have with all these batteries, I think maybe that should be something we brush up on, because, for instance, I have a friend and he had 2 lithium-ion batteries that were he was using his vape device, and he had them banging around in his pocket. I don't know the exact circumstances, but they were. He was in a work truck going to lunch, and the batteries exploded in his pocket and ruined his pants and caused some damage to himself. Nothing terribly serious, but it's probably not a good idea to keep batteries banging around in your pockets. And other safety things, I'm sure, are applicable as well. No, I didn't see your easy to boot links. Where did I miss that? Where was the easy to boot? Oh, there it is. Install OpenBSD. OpenBSD from easy to boot. What a great distribution, and what a great boot platform. Thank you, Phoenix. I'll repost there for you. Yes, I do believe Eric might be right in that he's thinking we're not going to get the answers to life, the universe, and everything until oh no, we will get those answers prior to getting Half-Life 3. Yeah, Half-Life was such a good franchise. Wish that would happen. Phoenix is going wild with the easy boot. Anybody out there using that, please take a look. Oh yeah, SpaceX just crashed. They've had 3 successful ones prior to this, so they were looking pretty solid. But and their last one had a mishap. That's bound to happen, and I'm hoping that they will continue to mature. But some of the concern about the private industry is that whereas NASA has extremely, because of the investment that they have into their people, the training that's involved, the military background of the astronauts and all of that, the loss of life is not acceptable in any mission. Even a few lost souls in those cases would be would really make it not worthy. Now, that hasn't stopped us, of course, and even there have been, of course, NASA loss of life. But I think in the grand scheme of things, they do try to keep it as they do try to check it out pretty well. The argument is that the private industry is not going to be as it's going to be willing to potentially cut corners and not have the thorough safety test. So you're going to have basically people signing away, they're signing a contract stating that if they know they may die when they go out on these missions. And so the mission to Mars may not be very much a two-way mission. It may be a one-way shot. Anyway, I'm speculating a little bit, but I do hope that the commercial industry gets off the ground. I do hope that there is cheaper commercialized space travel. I hope our science understanding is going to be boosted and benefited by that. I hope that in the future maybe it'll create jobs in some manner. And maybe it'll just help us have a little more elbow room down here on the surface to avoid overpopulation. Who knows? Don't want it to exactly be a Elysium. I didn't really like that movie, but yeah, years of Air Force investment. We already talked about this.
We talked about that yesterday, and the
backups. The Air Force has, and anybody else, it's inexcusable. How can you just lose data? Where were your backups? I don't care if you told me you only lost a week's worth of data because your backup was only run last week. I'd be cool with that. I'd be like, well, at least you backed up your data. Sorry, you lost a week, and that sucks, but at least you got your data. But it sounds like to me they just don't back up. Backup's not a requirement for anyone anywhere, and anybody can just say, we've really reverted back to the dog ate my homework excuse, right? I mean, when you were young, would the teacher buy dog ate my homework? No. I don't know of a single story, unless the teacher actually saw it happen in front of their face. I don't know of any chance that would happen. And basically, it's your responsibility to get your homework, this being your homework, your work, not even school related, and hold on to it and keep it in your possession and do everything within your ability. And you have not done that. And now they have to go to data recovery services to try to recover this. Again, reaffirming that they had no backups whatsoever. None. How can the government, the Air Force, explain that irresponsibility? If this is the type of people we have protecting the country and the organizations we have protecting the country, I don't know if we actually do have the best military in the world.
If they can't back up some simple data, it's a little concerning.
Yeah, and they're the ones that have their fingers on the launch buttons for our nuclear arsenal.
And they're and huge budgets. You think they could
infinite budgets, virtually black hole budgets.
They could have pulled out a backup drive.
They've yeah, exactly. They've been referred to as black hole budgets. They should have the top backup services in the world. And how come they aren't actively seeking out backup partnerships? Is it because they can't have an external party backup? Okay, well, I understand that. But if with an infinite amount of money, you can effectively back your own data up and store it in a big vault, stick it under Cheyenne Mountain or whatever, Have a military convoy, armed convoy, transport, the tapes to I'm sorry, I'm getting riled up. My apologies, guys. But yes, I did hear about that. Very, very upset. AMD had some questionable reports about their, status and, holding up. They seem to put a good spin on it, but others are interpreting it as being not that good, and their foundries having trouble keeping up with their main competitor in the desktop graphics market, NVIDIA, and even the higher end graphics market. Yeah, Skynet really, really buggy. I know it's the devil you know. You've ever heard that expression, guys? The devil you know. Well, at least you know how something's gonna react in a certain bad guy. Like what Putin's gonna do, or what you have a pretty good idea of how Kim Jong-un will respond or something like that. But because of previous behavior. But if you get some sort of buggy AI and you have no idea how it's going to react in any given scenario, to me that's far worse. Because there's no way to mount a defense against something like that. Oh, the Stargate? Well, no, we keep the backups off Earth. So we send them under Cheyenne Mountain, we stick them through the Stargate, and we take care of it that way. I've thought this
Dean Anderson solves everybody's problems. Yes.
He does. God bless that man. Phoenix says Skynet's already here. It's the NSA supercomputer. The truth is out there, Phoenix. Tech, Eric says. Futures, Eric says.
And so is Michael's house. Keep looking, guys. It's out there.
Yeah, Phoenix. I'm waiting for you to pop up on the front door. Let's see. No, Phoenix. Let's not jump to Eric. Eric has been providing some very comedic links and some very informative links, and some what I would like to say is empathetic links that he considered what my interests and posted a link that he thought I would enjoy, and I think we should all practice that. So post links if any of us know our individual interests. Post links to each other, and not just saying to us, to each other, like that. Pay it forward with links. Like for instance, when I hear a new story about a new medical technology, I have a medical issue, but even if it's totally unrelated to me, if somebody I know, for instance, somebody I know has RA, if there's a story about RA, I'm probably gonna, offer that up to them instead of, I guess, waiting or not caring and waiting for them to find it on their own. So I would encourage that. Do what I do, not do what I say, not what I do as well. Mark Zuckerberg denies being a secret lizard person. I'm so glad the truth is finally out there. And looks like we're getting some benchmarks. Interpret these as you will. I've only just come across them, but there's some concern that the new AMD Polaris parts that are going to be their next generation part, just like NVIDIA's 1080 and 1070 that they've released, it does look like it's going to be a lower performing part, which we would expect based upon the $200 price point. And excuse me, this article is not in English, but you can translate it easily. But it would appear that the device is being compared against not the recent generation. So I understand that it's performing better, but I would have much preferred it to be compared to, in this analysis, a more modern card like the 300 series, and they're comparing it against the 200 series in the Radeons. If any of you find that a little bit weird, it is a lower end part, and this is, of course, this is going to be the lower performing part even than the high end RX 480. So these might be other parts, more cheaper parts altogether. So that's interesting. I still. It's questionable what their high-end parts performance will be, and whether or not they will have a good competition standpoint compared to NVIDIA. But I don't know. It's got to be some improvement. And we'll see. Privatized space exploration. Yes, and Eric, what you said in total agreement. Thank you. itpro.tv. Oh, Phoenix points out that you can use the student promo code, and you can get a whole year for $199. He seems to think that that's a sweet deal. I haven't used that, but awesome. Deals are always good. And for all you guys that have waited for Doom to go on sale, I think that's happened. I think. If don't know if I posted this, but if any of you guys thinking of using the 1070 under Linux, there's a good article about that. Anybody a fan of Zelda?
Hell yeah.
There's a Breath of the Wild game out. There's a video for you. It's the official trailer for the game. They say it's easily one of the biggest experiences ever created by Nintendo. I don't believe, like some rumors, that there will be a female lead role in this. So I don't know. I'm assuming you're still playing Link. Looks like I missed the release of a new crucial MX-300 line of SLC. This is their first endeavor into the 3D TLC arena. Their previous offerings have been pretty good for planar TLC, and by TLC I mean SLC single level cell, multi-level cell, and tri-level cell. It's how many bits you can store in a NAND cell. So 1, 2, or 3 bits. There's some downsides to 3D. The having to do the right performance is usually reduced when it's functioning that way. But the good part about it is that you can control how many bits are written to each cell. So you can actually take TLC and effectively make it SLC or MLC, depending upon how you configure it. That's not typically done, but typically what is done is a certain portion of the drive is dedicated to an SLC cache, effectively an SLC cache, and the rest of it is left for capacity reasons to be the TLC. But it's interesting that it has that type of flexibility, and it certainly has a cost advantage. And it doesn't really have a performance disadvantage if you configure it in the ways that I was describing. Looks like this is just an evolutionary step up. I'm sorry, I'll post one of the articles I'm reviewing. Is here. It looks like this is a evolutionary step up from their previous MX-200 design. I'll let you know when I did just all the benchmarks, but from what I can say, it's a much better offering. Let's see here, one moment. Oh, it seems to be actually performing like a 850. Yeah, so it seems to be a much better offering than their previous release. It seems to be right up there with the 850 Evo from what I'm seeing. And that's really interesting because that's been a very strongly performing drive. It's maybe it has some ups and downs in comparison to it, but it's certainly a very reasonably mainstream drive. Anyway, I don't know if that's the best review to it. There's 1,000 reviews of it. Let's see, what did I post? Legit reviews, maybe a tech report review of it, and a SSD review report of it. Anyway, different perspectives on that. That's interesting. Oh, and missed the PC perspective take on it. I talked about this last time, but the Athlon X4. If anybody's built a cheap PC, does anybody feel like something like this would be good for a tech shop to sell as a low-cost gaming computer?
Link?
Yeah, that one, the one I just put in. I mentioned this before, but I don't know. I mean, it may not be, but I kind of think a $60 CPU that you could provide reasonable gaming performance with. So you need to put in a video card, but for like 1080p and 1200p and 1440p, I think it's probably awesome. And those are very common, popular resolutions that most gamers are going shooting for, because they typically have to buy a more expensive monitor otherwise. So that is all interesting. What else do we have? Hell no, I won't even sell it in my shop. Phoenix, and your reasoning behind it? In other words, if you had a $60 budget for a CPU, what would you pick if your budget were $60? If you have a better idea on a CPU that can run a game at reasonably high frame rates, modern games, let me know. I guess I'll have to wait for his response. But anyway, I thought, shops are, they want profit, and they want to deliver to customers' needs, and I think that fulfills on two of them. And I'm not so sure you could build an i3 system at that same price point and deliver the same performance.
How does it stack up against the Pentium?
Well, it doesn't stack well up against in raw CPU performance, but if you focus on the gaming performance in that aspect of it, and again, that's what I prefaced this article with. We want to focus on the gaming performance. I think you'll find it's only really in a few frames, not very many frames per second different at the most common resolutions that the gamers will be playing at, particularly the higher resolutions. Of course, that equalizes things a lot. But I'm generally an Intel person too, and if I had the money, I'd go that route. But if you're looking for profit and you're looking to satisfy a gamer who can't pay, the possible Intel premiums, that may be an option for you out there. But obviously, make your own choice. Yeah, Phoenix would look for something higher end. But if that's outside your budget, if that's not within your budget, and not many people are like us, okay? I'm sure all you shop owners out there know that not everyone demands an enthusiast level machine, and selling them enthusiast level hardware is a waste of money. And and I've seen a lot of rich people who do nothing with their computers but browse email, seemingly want to buy a $3,000 machine, and they have no idea that it's that honestly, in the way that they're using it is not really going to show itself off, and a machine costing half as much might perform equally well for them. I just take all the variables into consideration. I'm not saying it's a great processor for every situation. I'm not saying it competes with Intel's in any way, shape, or form. But for a gamer, the gamer CPU needs to maintain frame rates within their games that they need, so they need not be limited by their CPU. They need not have their frame rates capped and not have it move when they upgrade their video card. Okay, and a CPU like this will. Now, will it give you as many frames per second as an i7, 6700 or 5900X or something like that, or 60 whatever 900X? Will it? Probably not. But when you're talking about the difference of 5 frames per second or 10 frames per second, when you're talking about something that's over 120 frames per second, and somebody's got, I've got 190 versus 170 frames per second, is there really any difference? My argument is that there is not. Certainly you Twitch shooters, but if you're one of those Twitch people, you're not going to have the budget constraints. You're going to be able to spend more, and you can get those. But if you want somebody to have a machine that gives them the level of performance they need to play mainstream gaming, I think that's a reasonable CPU. I'll shut up. I'm sorry. What a surprise. Again, getting back to my article about plugins, but critical Adobe Flash bug under attack. Currently has no patch. Makes you wonder who's put out more malware, the bad guys or this company? Company I just mentioned. If you count the value of all the ransoms that have had to have been paid as a result of their flaws, I would argue that they've cost them more than others. But again, that's my opinion. Nothing more. There was the encrypted file system. I'm going to give another link out. That's an Ars Technical link. I want to read up a little bit more about that. It's just an announcement. It's nothing.
I don't like to keep going over something we've already gone over, but where did you get the price that CPU was $60? Is that the going rate or the price they listed in the article?
Thought I thought the article I was reading, I don't know if that's the same article, but I thought it mentioned $60.
Oh, okay, because they have a chart on the next page. The Athlon X4 is $95. The Intel G4400 is actually $65. But
Do we have
I
benchmark
haven't looked.
comparisons of the two?
Yeah, they're here, but it takes a while to read it all. But the clock speeds on the AMD chips are a lot faster.
Yeah, that's irrelevant though. That's irrelevant.
But from a shop's perspective, I mean, people walk in and they see 4 gigahertz over 3.3. They may be more willing to buy the 4, even if it's not as fast. But something you need to do as a shop owner is to explain the differences.
You need the $60. Hold on. 3.1 gigahertz, 3.8 gigahertz. What's that model number?
It's the Athlon X4880K.
I've got it on $75 on Newegg for the 860K. The 870K is $90. Yeah, the 870K is $90. I was reading a different article. I think my article I was reading had this guy in it. The 845. Was it no, not the 845, was it?
In their conclusion, they say that in applications that use 1 or 2 core processing cores, the Pentium performed better than the Athlon, but in cases where applications could use all 4 cores, the Athlon did better, which is what I've found in a lot of cases too. Is the Athlon
that's really a very good
in multi-threaded applications
and new modern games, which they can easily use 4 cores. Not a whole lot much beyond 4, but they do 4. And some gamers have already found that a dual core CPU is not sufficient to keep up. So that's interesting. That gives a little bit more credence. But to actually, just as Proctor was clarifying, the price point for that one in that article, I was reading a different article, but that's the price point of that one is a little bit higher. I would probably look at the one that I had posted there at the end. That is a $65 processor, so and it's 3.8 gigahertz. So that for that price compared against the Intel, you might want to do an analysis on that to see which is the better choice. iOS 10 is going to be the last iOS on iPhone 4S and iPad 2.
What did you say?
iOS 10 is going to drop support for certain Macs and
certain iPhones.
Well, both Mac OS for the desktop and iOS stuff. They're doing the same thing under both. They're basically, deprecating some very old platforms. Yeah, well, the 4S is not that old in my opinion, but whatever. That's cool. Yes, and yes, Phoenix, I would look for something higher end than mine, and I wouldn't probably go with.
I would want something higher end too, but if you're
AMD,
depending on what your budget warrants, what you're using the computer for.
And listen, for a gamer, every dollar you spend on the CPU, you save on the CPU rather, can be spent on the graphics card, and that's going to get you much more difference in frame rates than anything else will.
True.
So, that I think is what most gamers would say. They want a video card and a platform secondary.
Yeah. But pour as much into the video card as you can.
And it's the difference between spending, $60 on a CPU or 120 or 160 on a CPU. I mean, yeah, that can be an upgrade, a complete class upgrade in video cards potentially. Anybody got anything tech or not tech? Non-tech is fine. If easy.
I don't know.
We need weather news.
It's sunny.
It's sunny at Tanks.
Tonight there's a chance of dark.
I think there's a very high probability of that, at least at some point during the night.
They found that 2,000-year-old butter the other day.
Oh, that's the one. That's the one I wanted you to talk out. Yeah, so at a peat bog in, where was it, in Europe?
Ireland.
A peat bog in Ireland, they found 2,000 pounds of butter, was it?
Oh. 20 pounds.
20 pounds, sorry.
20 pounds of butter is 2,000 years old.
Oh, 2,000 years old, 20 pounds of butter. Yeah, okay.
And still edible, I believe, right?
Yeah, and well, peat bogs are naturally preserving.
They say it's still edible, but it's not recommended.
Yeah. Well, apparently this was common for them to preserve stuff, except most of the time it's preserved inside something, like inside a crate or a barrel. And this wasn't, so they believe it may have been some sort of like offering to the gods, possibly, or something else along those lines. But I'd like to taste it, frankly. It'd probably be good butter. It'd probably be real good butter if it was a god offering. They'd probably make that the best they could. And wouldn't you love to go to the lab where they're analyzing it right now and bring a bag of popcorn and like maybe a creme brulee torch or something like that, and when they're turning their back, you just go over to it, and when they turn around, you're sitting there munching popcorn and butter, pouring the butter down it. That's just my fantasy, but yeah. If you want to see an article, now of course you're, I think, required by law to keep your hands on the wheel, but ours took Volvo's XC90 for a spin and let it drive itself in traffic. Gregory's finally asking a question and has joined us. Proctor, do you want to address this with Gregory or shoot him a link to the information?
He's asking about CP8 will be out soon.
Yeah, so D7X and CPV8, yeah.
Yeah, I mean CP8. Brantley's putting the final touches on that, and Michael's uncovering bugs. But
well, I've completely stopped looking for bugs. So as soon as Brantley fixes the ones that's currently there, I'd say release. That's my opinion.
So that I would say any time now. As far as D7X, I want everybody to understand that D7X is not just a product; it is a platform for which our products will be built upon going forward. And we already have there's some of that functionality built into CryptoPrevent version 8 beta, and Kill 'Em All 5 is built on D7X technology. It's classified as beta, but for the most part, it's totally functional, and you can download that on our website. Nick is working on that framework that's going to be the underpinning of D7X, and once he's finished with that, he will begin the process of finishing up the actual D7X toolkit. Anything else you'd add to that, Michael?
No, that's exactly what I generally wanted to throw out there, Gregory. We're not taking a break by any means. So we are actively at work on that. We do believe that Crypto Prevent will come out in advance of the D7X technology. But once Crypto Prevent 8 is out, it will allow additional development staff to work on D7X, and that may actually allow it to get into your hands more quickly. So look forward to that. There's been some issues. Nothing. I don't want to talk about that. Here's an interesting science article about the eye. So Phoenix asks, if D7X is written from scratch, how can we know if it's going to be stable like D7.2 is currently? Well, time will tell, but I'm sure we'll do testing to determine that before its release.
I would. You're going to see a better stability out of the D7X product than what you see now with D7.2.
Did you hear that part? That sound?
A sound?
Yeah. What was that sound?
I don't know if I heard it or not. I'm really good at blocking stuff out.
Okay. Maybe it was nothing. Any other news? We're only barely getting towards the time here. We need a couple more to, let's see, to roll us out. Yeah, I agree with you, Phoenix. I did know a lot of shops use D7.2, and you can continue to use D7.2. So even when D7X is released, I don't believe D7.2 will be immediately deprecated. I don't believe we'll be developing it any longer, but it will always be a backup option. And I believe the D7X server infrastructure is going to accommodate that as well. So I really don't feel, Phoenix, like that should be a terribly large concern. And there are even some techs that still use, for certain limited circumstances, D7 to this day. Not that we necessarily recommend it, but there's like some of the people that rely upon data grab and data grab restore use that still.
Here are a couple of links, Michael, where Nick is talking in our forums about D7X.
And AntiX got an article about the first, what they're calling the first ARM server system on a chip with ambition. It's been talked about for a while, getting a large number of cores into server blades and seeing how well they perform in tasks that normally aren't associated with that architecture. And I don't know. That seems to, this article looks like there may be some merit to those claims.
Here's another link where I'm talking about D7X. I basically said what I said earlier, but there's a link.
Sri points out that she was working with her son today to clone an encrypted hard drive, and she was able to do it successfully using Ubuntu Linux. So, Sri, can you elaborate on that? I mean, what was it encrypted with exactly, and what did you use tool-wise to do the clone or otherwise recover the data? So I'm a little bit unclear what your. I mean, I know Linux cloning is, can absolutely be successful, but the encrypted part I was a little bit more interested in. Please elaborate. Sorry, I thought I heard a knock at my door. My apologies. Yeah, Phoenix, but I wonder if it's like encrypted file system, and if there's a way to, the account credentials to decrypt it via that. It's a really interesting discussion in the chat there. I'd like to see Shrew's response. She looks like she got off there at the end. In general, I'm in agreement with Phoenix. However, there are mitigating factors, and you could clone the data, for instance, and then spend your, an infinite amount of for instance, you may only have access to somebody's computer for a short period of time. You could clone it and then potentially spend the entire rest of your life or whatever attempting to decrypt it. I don't know if that's terribly relevant as a form of an attack, but you can bypass the source. Please tell me what tools you're using.
If you do a bit for bit copy, it should identically duplicate what's on the drive. You're not doing a file.
Well, yeah,
copy.
but that's it. But she's saying the source drive and copy it sector by sector, bypassing the encryption. In other words, it not being encrypted. And in other words, you being able to read the data after the clone. Now, I need to understand, Shri, what tool you're doing to make that happen, and yeah, I'm generally, like I said, I'm in agreement with Phoenix, but I need to understand what tool you're using specifically, and what type of encryption, again, we're specifically talking about in the specific case that you had to deal with, Sherry. I'm not trying to grill anybody, but I'm just interested in this tremendously. Obviously, encryption has always been a point that we've recommended and supported here. So I want to know if there's any lack in the information that we're putting out on, and if we're incorrect about something. Certainly, I would love to update myself and everyone that listens to us. But I need to understand those specifics. Okay, well, I'll just wait till the yeah, I'll say quote unquote yelling, and it's not. I'm sure you guys are typing just fine and respectfully. Looks like you are, but I love these types of discussions. They're really awesome. To give you guys an idea, again, I know those were some of the lower end AMD parts that I posted, but this is the June 29th release. We should see the RX 480. I'm not really sure how that compares with the release dates for those other, the 670s and or 470s and 460s. I'm not sure how it relates to those, but I'm certainly looking forward to the 29th when we can see those prices drop. Now, I said that too with the 1070, and it still looks like the 1070 isn't widely available in the channel enough for prices to have actually dropped. So I'm still waiting on that. But the more these new generations of GPUs flood, the more likely it will be for those prices to drop. And I probably encourage anyone who's in need of a GPU upgrade to consider taking advantage of, if not the newer generations themselves, but taking advantage of the price drop across the board that this new generation will usher in.
The RX 480, that's AMD's mid-range GPU?
No, that's going to be their high-end GPU. That's their high-end.
For $199?
Yeah. Their 470 and 460 are going to be their lower-end parts. I don't know if they're both going to be midstream parts, or if they're going to be in split otherwise, but you can read that other article I posted a while back for that. But the $200 price point is extremely interesting. Yeah, see, Polaris 10 is the idea. The Polaris 11, Polaris 10, I think, is their desktop iteration. Polaris 11, I think, is going to be their mobile or other iteration of it. So when you see that, when you see those numbers, it isn't that 11's better than 10. It's just that's how they did it. At any rate, again, the product that it's supposed to go up against would be the R9 390, I guess, or something along those lines, or maybe even the 390X, judging by the speeds that they're reporting here and everything else. Now, given that, that's the 390X is a fairly high level chip, but it's still not considered to be. It's just a little bit below the performance of the Fury, which is below the performance of the 1070. So it's not going to be any competition at all to NVIDIA, this product, but it should, again, bring a higher level of performance to a lower market, especially at the resolution most gamers are playing at. Anyway, they're touting efficiency improvements and all that. I just want the prices to drop, and I think this new generation of both cards, NVIDIA's and AMD's, again, will do that. Okay. Oh, Lucy. Hello, Lucy. Want to say hi for the camera, Lucy? Let's see where she is. Hello, good Lucy. She's such a good girl. Yes, she is. Yes, she is. She's a good girl. I love my doggy. So I guess we'll bring it to a close today. Let's see what the chat's looking like. There's still some discussion going over this. I think there's been a little bit of clarification about what's been going on. And they have the decryption key, it looks like. Alex, not Eric. Oh, okay. I did wonder why you clarified your older son, so I sort of knew you were referring to the other one. But they're both cis. Well, neat. I really would have probably very much enjoyed being a member of your family growing up. I did not have that opportunity. I seemed to always want to ask everybody else in my family questions, and I never got an answer. And this was before the internet, so it's not like I could just go online and get the answers. But that was a long time ago. Let's see. So Shri is talking about how to do the cloning, and yeah, it's pretty straightforward. That's the one thing I love about Linux is getting access to storage devices, storage volumes, and then doing like direct copies and DDs. It's just it's so relatively straightforward and simple, and it just works, and it's well documented too. You think, well, how would I ever know to type in sudo dd? Well, sudo just elevates your privileges, so dd won't work unless you have sufficient privileges to make it happen. So that's that. And if input, of output, basically, output input file system, output file system. It's fairly straightforward, but even if it weren't, a quick Google would set you straight. And there's a large community willing to help with all of that. So I encourage Linux use and Linux knowledge, because I think it's a critical point of our line of work these days, using it for the right circumstances, not necessarily for desktop circumstances, but using it for other circumstances. Most of the tools out there use those open source stuff and don't require. We forget that some of the tools that we need for Windows are just built straight into the operating system under Linux. So I'll end on that. Yep. Okay, guys, you guys have a great rest of your day. Join us tomorrow on the Foolish Tech Show on our Thursday edition at what is
4
that?
p.m.
4 p.m. 4 p.m. We'll pick up this discussion with you guys there. And again, check us out, foolishtechshow.com, foolishit.com/live, and join us in our RSC chat. We wish you guys a very happy Wednesday, and I guess Proctor, take us out. Goodbye, internets.
All right, goodbye, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you, RTM, by the way. Now the show is called The Michael